Over the last 12 months, I've worked with 353 unique clothing brands to help them build a community of superfans. And when they stopped making these mistakes, some saw growth of up to 200 times and most importantly, felt fulfilled. So here are 26 secrets to successfully growing a clothing brand and a community that you wish you knew sooner. Secret number 1, I had a session with a brand owner who wanted to build a community and create some exclusivity around his products. And after seeing what Cortez did with their account, he decided to make his Instagram private too. But there was one issue. He had less than 1,000 followers, and now he was going to restrict any new reach to cold audiences as well. So secret number 1 is don't make your Instagram private. The truth is, a private account only works if people already know your brand or believe it's worth following. If you do want to create exclusivity in this way, a better solution would be to create 2 Instagram accounts, one public and one private. Call the public account your brand name. And it's here where you would post mostly reels or content for new audiences that goes viral. This way you can still grow. The private account is for your most loyal customers. I'd give it a special name as if it were a club or inner circle group and post content that community members would appreciate. Treat it almost like a group chat with your closest friends. And now you get the best of both worlds. Secret number 2. For a long time with my content and communities, I wondered about what people actually wanted. And if you're anything like most clothing brands that I work with, you wonder the exact same thing. So that's when I created an advisory group chat, and I suggest you do too. This is a small group of select customers and audience members from your social media who already show they care about what you're doing. You might have already had conversations with these people over DMs. Maybe they comment on every post. Maybe they've bought more than most customers. Well, it's these kind of people that you're going to pick to meet you on an app like Instagram or WhatsApp and add them to a group chat. And it's here where you can run things by them, ask for feedback on designs, and get content idea. And they're like a back pocket sidekick. And the best part is, by making them feel so involved, they will likely become even more loyal to your brand. Secret number 3. I had a client who was struggling to connect on a deeper level with his audience. The best response up until that point was some fire emojis, and the worst part is it was mainly from friends and family. Does this sound familiar? So I suggested something strange. Why not introduce yourself personally to all your followers? At first, he was a little hesitant, but he went ahead, and to both our surprise, if I'm honest, the response was major. There were rich conversations happening with strangers in the DMs, and the engagement on post not only increased in quantity, but also in quality. And the craziest thing is when some of these conversations led to real sales. So secret number 3 is to message your followers. Start by going through your current stranger followers and ask what prompted them to follow along. And from this point forward, you can make a habit of messaging every new follower, because immediately you'll see an increased connection with your audience and their dedication to the brand. And the best part about being small is that you get to do things that bigger brands simply cannot because they are so large. But even if you are a larger brand, you might discover it's worthwhile hiring someone to send these private messages after all. Secret number 4. One of the main problems with Instagram is the lack of connectivity between your customers. And that's to say, I can follow your brand, but there are little to no opportunities to meet other followers that also follow your brand. And this ability to meet fellow lovers of your brand is what drives commitment within communities. So instead of settling for less, build an online community on another platform, and that is secret number 4. Just imagine a space where committed followers can make friends with each other in the community and talk about shared interests. And it gets even better because you can use the community to test products before release and even drop pieces as if it were an email list. To advertise the community, I would create an Instagram post to tell your followers about it, get them to comment a particular keyword like club or join, and use a software like ManyChat to automatically send them a join link. A client of mine did this and grew to 2,000 members within the first 24 hours. He went on to sell out multiple sizes on the first drop in a matter of hours. That's way better than any email list, and that's why you should do this too. Secret number 5. A conversation I've had countless times with brand owners is their dream of one day doing a pop-up. But right now, they consider their brand too small to start. But what if it wasn't? What if you could reap the same in-person content benefits from pop-ups even as a startup brand. Would you do it? Well, I'm here to tell you, you can by doing an event with your friends. The running brand UVU does this very well. In the beginning, they didn't have enough of a following to start a run club. So the owner just did it with his friends. And so they went out with all their running buddies and did marathon training and brought a videographer, and that's basically their content to this day. So to do this with your own brand, I would start by finding an activity that is simple and cheap to do and relates directly to your brand lifestyle. Get 3 to 5 friends together who are willing to do it with you once per month and post content as if it were a real brand event. Because for most of your followers that couldn't come anyway because of distance, it's actually more about seeing that the community exists at all than actually attending the meetups. And the best part is your event could turn into something real with customers. Over time, as you create your content and your audience grows, you might have 1 or 2 new faces show up in addition to your friends. And now there are 6 of you, and this is a real brand event. Secret number 6. Have you ever noticed that some larger brands show up at events that aren't even their own? Like the Olympics, for example. Nike didn't start the Olympics, but they do leverage the event to create content and drive new eyes to their product. But have you ever considered that you could do this too? And that's secret number 6. Leverage someone else's event. Now, I don't mean you have to go to the Olympics, but maybe there's an event near you that aligns with your brand ethos. For example, if you're a mental health brand, you might find a fun run to raise money for mental health. Or maybe for a football brand, there's a local tournament. It's a simple way to get a lot of content and even more exposure without breaking the bank as a startup and having to create your own event. And if you want to take this a step further, considering sponsoring branded garments for the event or even doing a limited run just for the event participants. There's so many fun things you can do with this one. Secret number 7. I was recently working with a brand owner who raved about how committed they were to their brand. They told me how they often spent 12 or 16 hours a day on focus work. And heck, that's a big deal. But when I looked at their page, I was surprised that there wasn't much to show for all their hours. After questioning a little more, I found out they were spending their time consuming every piece of content about clothing brands under the sun instead of actually taking action. So please, if this sounds like you, secret number 7 is very simply stop watching content. Start doing something. I truly believe that good ideas die in planning, and whether you do or don't struggle with this, here's a simple rule that could help whoever's on the other side of this video. After each video you watch, apply at least one thing as soon as possible before watching the next video. Yes, that means no more consuming without taking action. My videos included. I promise the secret will absolutely change your life. Secret number 8. I was working with a clothing brand that was stuck at around 10,000 followers with a little growth over a long period of time. They'd been posting consistently without success. So in our first session, I thought I'd look over their page and find the problem. Now, I could see a lot of content that didn't perform, obviously, but some reels that did a lot better than the others. So the content strategy we made for them was wildly simple. We started by recreating the content that had performed well previously to see if there was a pattern here. And that was enough. Within the week, they posted a 9 million view video that got 500,000 likes, and more importantly, brought in 40,000 new followers. That's more growth than they had seen ever, let alone in that short amount of time. So if you want to 5x your audience with one post too, repeat what works. This very video that you're watching right now is a repetition of a previous high performing video that I created. The title is even in the same format, and the thumbnail you clicked on is based on what's worked before too. Now, I have written entirely new points for this video, so the content itself is fresh and valuable, but the overarching concept is the same, and that's how this idea works. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you make content. So post a bunch until something performs better than the rest, figure out why it worked, and repeat that format again. Secret number 9. When someone finds your content in the Reels tab, there are a series of steps they take before purchasing a product. First, they'll click on your profile and look at your page. And this next part is pivotal. They'll decide whether they want to follow or not based on the other content you've posted. If they notice it's consistently valuable, then maybe they will follow. So secret number 9 is to create an expectation for the type of content that you post. This means instead of posting an idea here and an idea there with so many different types of content, think in terms of pillars. A content pillar is like a TV show where you have an overarching story concept broken down into smaller episodes, each with their own unique scenarios. In the same way, a running brand might have a content pillar called 30 Questions with Athletes, for example. Each post will be a different athlete, but the overarching idea remains the same. Now your followers know what to expect when they come to your page, and they can even become followers in the first place. Secret number 10. When you're a social media brand and customers can't come into the store and feel your garments, your content is all they have to judge you from. Plus, when you're competing against other brands that already create amazing quality content, you don't want to fall behind. That's why it's so important to improve the quality of your content. Your dedication to content creation should match, even exceed, your dedication to product development, as it's where the greatest impression of your brand will come from. And if you have no idea where to start in terms of improving your content, lighting is the best place to start. That'll make a cheap camera look pro and a pro camera look cheap. Secondly, learn to color grade. This will elevate your footage from looking like iPhone quality to cinema quality. Secret number 11. There was a clothing brand who reached out who had 20,000 odd followers, had ordered 500 caps for their first drop, and sold a total of 4, which is less than ideal. Looking at their page, it looked stunning. The visuals were on par with that of much larger brands like Represent. So then why didn't they sell as expected? The moral of the story here is that quality only goes so far. But Elijah, this contradicts what you just said. Look, it's a baseline that without it, you cannot expect to sell anything. But quality content alone will not make your brand blow up and will certainly not build you a raving community. There comes a point when quality content is good enough and you must decide to invest in other areas that make a real difference, like the content or the storytelling behind the videos itself. Secret number 12. The narrative you get from social media is that behind the scenes content is the holy grail of community building. However, there are 3 main problems that I see with this idea. First, before anyone cares about who you are, no one cares about who you are. Sharing the behind the scenes of your brand becomes interesting only after we've been following the scenes for a while. Number 2, at the beginning, there isn't much interesting or new to share that hasn't been shared before. This makes you extremely unoriginal from other brands. And 3, it causes you to make content for other brand owners and not your target audience. And that's why secret number 12 is to stop posting behind the scenes content. Now, I already know some of you will be writing comments upset at me for saying this, but please take it from someone who has seen this obsession with behind the scenes only hold brands back. It applies to you unless it doesn't. Lesson number 13. I once worked with a brand owner who worked with a done for you ad agency, meaning they do all the work and simply deliver the results. But after that experience, they came to me with a bitter taste in their mouth. The lack of results from the agency was one thing, but the worst part of all is that they did all the work for them, leaving the brand owner with much less than what they started with. And that's why I always recommend learning before outworking. It seems fun to pay someone else to do the work for you, but if you don't learn how to do it by yourself first, you'll forever be reliant on their ability. And if you've got the money to invest, always pay for someone to teach you how to do it yourself before doing it for you. Lesson number 14. When a brand owner has such confidence in the product that they are releasing, I often ask them the question, based on what? Why do you have such a confidence? Some are left startled. Others respond with a remark about their quality. But very few brand owners have used any logical testing to determine their confidence in a product. So secret number 14 is that your opinion doesn't matter. At least not as much as the opinions of the customers buying it. You may look at your product and decide you like the design, but based on what? So here are a couple of methods for testing that you could try. First, create 100 design concepts, shortlist your favorite 10, and finalize those designs. Create some mock-up images and post them on targeted ads. Whichever ads get the most engagements in the first 24 hours shows signs of a winning product that your target will appreciate. Alternatively, if you don't want to spend money, I build a targeted audience on social media media first, then use your story and close friends and add simple polls to test the products. The designs that keep winning on the polls are likely to perform better. Secret 15. On social media, there's lots of visuals and talk of these luscious lifestyles that brand owners live. They travel the world, they create and sell products, and make tens of thousands of dollars in online sales. But the reality of it is that a very small percentage of brand owners will actually make money from this, and the ones that do will always be faced with the very low margins of selling clothing products. And that's why secret number 15 is don't do this to make money. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't want to make money. Making money is a good thing. My point is that you should do this with a greater cause or sense of purpose, some central idea or thing that you're trying to achieve that goes beyond financial gains. And the way I figure out if a brand owner is purpose-driven and to see if they're a good fit to be my client is by asking this question. What do you intend to do once you make all the money? What are you going to spend it on then? In other words, once you bought the car and traveled the world and you're bored of plane trips, you've done it all in first class, you've bought a house, you've even bought houses for all your family and friends in their cars. What do you spend your money on then? Usually, a brand owner that is mission focused will have a really great answer about all the things that they want to do that don't directly benefit them, but they still want to see changed in the world. And that's the real reason anyone should start a clothing brand. And by the way, if that does sound like you and you would like to work with me, there's a link in the top of the description and also in the pinned comments section. You can click on that link and I'm going to help you find your mission and figure out how to communicate it with the world. Secret 16. Imagine you're on a sinking ship with lots of holes. If you're trying to plug all of them at once, you end up plugging none because you have a finite number of hands and can't possibly reach all the holes at once. However, if you prioritize the largest hole first, then the next largest, and then bucket out all the water, then maybe the ship stands a chance. Well, your clothing brand is like the sinking ship, and the holes are all the things you must learn. If you try and learn and optimize everything at once, you won't really learn much at all. So instead, learn one thing at a time. If you could improve meta ads, your organic content, website SEO optimization, and your connection with the community, decide which will have the biggest impact right now on your brand. It's not to say that you couldn't improve meta ads, but when there's an endless number of holes, prioritization ensures you're always plugging the most important thing first. Secret number 17. You've heard a lot of talk on Instagram about the hook. I know you have, but most of the examples are Mr. Beast type videos where they scream 30-second challenges into your face.
I chained this massive rock to a random guy.
That simply isn't going to cut it for your clothing brand. So how do you create hooks for clothing brands? Well, that's why secret number 17 is to use visual hooks instead. It's where you use visuals to promise a payoff without speaking at all. Check out this video that uses a visual hook without any words, and then I'm going to show you how you can use these hooks for your own content. Did you catch it? In the first 2 seconds, our expectations are subverted. The background falls away and we're frozen in surprise. Then we realize he's in the middle of a busy intersection. His life is at stake, so we stay to see what happens. Is he gonna get hit by a car? We hope not. You see how the visual hook is less about your ordinary product and more about the surprising situations we put it in. And all of this without speaking a word. Secret 18. Fashion films are the coolest thing. In fact, I've made entire videos encouraging you to tell stories in this way. So you'll be surprised to know I told one of my clients to stop creating fashion films. He was at an early stage of his brand and had posted less than 10 times in total. The last 3 times being months ago. And that was a problem. So if you're at a similar stage to this client, I would tell you the same. Don't even think about creating a fashion film. Because when you're trying to figure out what content works for your brand, frequency is the name of the game. And fashion films just take too long. Spending a month on one piece of content isn't an option. Instead, spend your time on creating more simple but quality content. Something you could create in a couple of days, not a month. And don't think you can't tell stories in one shot. This will allow you to grow your brand in the early stages and build your resources before you invest into creating more complex short films. Secret number 19. 6 years ago when I did my first fashion shoot for a brand I had started, I took the photos ready to share, but I'd made one major major mistake. Take a look. Can you spot it? All right, settle down. I said one thing. I said one mistake. You don't have to get so riled. But seriously, if you don't want your photos turning out like mine, then please iron your clothes. In Superfan Free, our brand owner community, we see new products and flat lay photos every single day. And it tells me that ironing or steaming the fabric is still feedback we must give. It's a simple act that takes no more than a moment and will immediately elevate your brand from hobby to business. Secret 20. If you're anything like most of the brands I speak to, you want to work with influencers, but find yourself stuck. They have 100,000 followers or more, and then there's you. Why would they want to work with a small brand like me, is the question. Well, the truth is, most probably won't. For the most part, it doesn't make logical sense for them, but it doesn't mean all is lost. The solution is to partner with equals, people that have a similar follower count than you. This means you can still leverage the personal brands in your niche to bring awareness and strengthen your own brand and not be faced with endless number of rejections. And the good news is that as you grow over time, so too will the influencers you partner with. Coming up together is much more genuine in relationships than seeking validation from those at the top. Secret 21. Step 1 with brands that want to build a community is figuring out what they want their community to be about. From most, I get a response like streetwear or activewear, but those concepts are about as niche as skateboarding. In other words, not very niche at all. So secret number 21 is to box yourself in. Your niche is what makes your community desirable. It's the differentiator from every other brand and their community. If you go too broad, you're gonna have a hard time creating a community worth joining. Something else you'll find to be the case is that when you box in, content creation becomes much easier. Not only will it lead to more ideas, but more success. And naturally, you'll be creating original content without really trying. And don't worry about restricting your sales. For most brands with a sales problem, going too broad is actually the issue. Secret 22. First impressions matter. If you go on a date looking scruffy, smelling like you haven't showered, no one would blame her for not going on a second. She made a judgment on the kind of person he was based on the first impression. And so too do your customers. So to keep them coming back, fix your first impression. If a potential customer comes across your brand page and sees blurry images, poorly lit subjects, you've already lost their trust. It's told them everything that they need to know. And when you're asking strangers to make a buying decision with a brand that no one's heard of, the first impression is everything. So a good way to test your first impression is to watch a young designer, photographer, or content creator load your page. Take particular note of their reaction and ask them to help with honest feedback. Secret 23. In the past, I've gotten the question, what camera should I buy with an $1,000 budget? Well, I think it's great when a brand owner is willing to invest into their brand. It shows that they're actually serious. But is a camera the right investment? What you don't realize is that for $1,000, you can maybe get an entry-level DSLR, but that's only a camera body. It doesn't consider the lens, which many times costs twice what the body will. And in the end, you're just better using an iPhone. The quality is so good nowadays anyway. So unless you're spending in the realm of $5,000 to $10,000 or more, I don't believe it's worth exploring professional camera gear because a newer phone will match or even exceed the quality. Instead, I'd recommend downloading an app like Yamera that allows you to control manual camera settings like exposure and shutter speed. That gives you the main functionality of a camera inside of your phone. Secret 24. While on the topic of upgrading your production quality, have you ever wondered why some small brands often appear professional while others look like, well, you know. The secret, I believe, is to learn lighting. The best part is that this skill doesn't cost anything as long as you're using natural light. And for the most part, you won't need anything else, even if you do have a budget for LEDs. So if there are only two things I could teach you about natural lighting, it would be this. For outdoor shoots, aim for cloudy days. Your light will appear much softer as opposed to those hard shadows in more amateur photos. And for indoor shoots, stay near a window. Without professional lighting, your standard overhead lights will look pretty unflattering and, again, unprofessional. So keep near the lateral light source. Secret 25. In the last 12 months, I've spent more than $18,000 on online courses. And no, that's not some college tuition. For the most part, these are what many would call Instagram guru courses. And despite most people's resistance to gurus, picking the right ones has led to many more tens of thousands in added revenue to my business in a very short time. And that doesn't even include the compounding effects of knowledge in the years to come. What's my point? I don't tell you this to brag, but to simply encourage anyone serious about their clothing brand to buy courses and invest in education. After more than 350 calls, I can confidently tell you one thing. If you've never dropped clothing before and don't get professional help, you are likely to lose big time. And all the brand owners who've already dropped are commenting amen. I know this because 90% of the conversations I have are with brand owners that wish they had found me before they paid for their bulk order. Now they've got boxes collecting dust in the garage. To think about it logically, the price of a course is far less than the price of your failed clothing drop. You don't know what you don't know, and those that recognize this are often the winners. Even if the course you bought was a bust, you probably still save money buying 5 more, and one of them has got to work. And listen, I don't say this as a salesman, but as a fellow businessman. So now you know how to fix a bunch of problems that stop most brands from building their superfan community. But if you don't learn about the best place to start, it'll all fall apart. That rhymed, but I really didn't mean it to. But anyway, watch this next video where I have a conversation with a $19 million e-commerce founder, and he'll show you the blueprint to growing your clothing brand. I'll see you over there.